so excited for our very first inaugural podcast.
Yes.
I'm super excited. I go by the name of Ashley.
And I'm Delora.
Each week, we're going to be bringing you recaps of some of our favorite programming out there in the streaming world, content world, possibly a little music. We'll hit you with some hot topics and just give our takes on all things entertainment.
Yes. Just
Super
two girls
excited.
who love pop culture, and we have lots of opinions on them. I'm so excited to share.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to kick it off as we will each week with our hot topics. So the first one, Miss Delora, is going to be on a sadder note as we give our condolences to John Legend and Chrissy Teigen, who just announced this. We're recording it on the day it was announced that they unfortunately lost their third child, whom they named Jack. Chrissy was pretty vocal and kind of allowing fans to follow along on her pregnancy path she's been going down on social media. So, you know, she was mentioning how she was on bed rest just due to her health and potential complications, but it kind of got more dire in the last, week or a couple of days where
Yeah,
she was bleeding and they were giving her blood transfusions,
Yes.
And unfortunately, nothing was working out, and the baby did pass away. And I remember I texted you earlier this week, just saying, you know, it just seemed so strange that this was news to me because it seems so personal. But
Absolutely.
I think at the same time now, with everything that's happened, I do understand that it's probably very helpful for a lot of families and a lot of moms who have dealt with this or going through this to kind of have someone in that position to relate to. So what were your thoughts? Because you're the first person that sent me a text today about the news.
Yeah, so I've been following her stories. She's been showing herself or showing the lack thereof of activity during her bed rest. Luna washing her hair and all the fun foods that she likes to eat. And when she ended up in the hospital, I got nervous, but she seems like the type of person, and she said it herself, that she's like, don't worry, don't worry for me. I'm fine. I'm strong. The baby's strong. She was like, letting people know that she was having some bleeding issues, and it's all about the placenta placement and all that. We're not medical professionals, but
by any means,
having had a child, you kind of learn some things. And I was really scared for her, I'm not gonna lie, but she was in such great spirits, her and John, and I thought it was actually quite inspiring. And but I will also say I was absolutely surprised that she got so personal. Like she was so personal to where she showed the pamphlet when she was getting blood transfusion, and she's like, again, playing it down in a way like, oh, I got a blood transfusion is just like an IV, but with blood, someone's blood. But when I saw the news this morning, my heart broke. My heart broke for her and John, because I mean, that's just a terrible thing to go through. And but some of the tweets that I saw from women who've experienced it and things like that, they talked about how much it's a gift, because it gives them permission to grieve what they've lost in the past. So it's like, I was thinking to myself, like, why was she so open about it? But in some ways, I do think it is a lesson for women who have gone through it, for young women who are interested in the journeys of motherhood and things like that. I just think it's interesting. And the other thing that I thought of was the thing about Chrissy Teigen and John Legend's relationship. It's like they're very vocal, yet they don't have a reality TV show.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because
Twitter is their TV show.
And I say that because we saw Kourtney Kardashian pull her child out of her vagina. You know what I mean? We saw that. Yeah. And it's like, so it's not like we haven't seen people's intimate stories before, but just with her and John, they just decide to use it through social media. And it's like, it's just interesting. We live in this culture where we share every thought, every random thought and emotion. And some celebrities, decided to be ultra private, and she did not.
Mm-hmm.
So, but
and I mean, it's kind of in the
prayers for them,
absolutely.
and prayers of peace and love and positive energy their way, because I mean, I don't wish that on anyone.
Mm-hmm. And to your point, I mean, Chrissy in and of herself always kind of is that personality, always has been. So it makes sense. And maybe it's therapeutic more than anything. Like you were saying, not just for those families, but maybe for Chrissy and John to kind of be able to talk about it and get that support from, people to kind of reach out maybe and share their story. So I hope it helps. It's definitely a very sad situation. And again, definitely sending their condolences. I feel like John Legend belongs to me a little bit more than certain celebrities just because he's from Ohio. So yes, OH baby. So it just feels, little bit more personal. Don't be a hater, Laura. Don't do this. I definitely feel like, it's definitely going to be a tough situation, but hopefully they will make it through with love and positivity. Yeah. So moving on to
it was their miracle baby too, which is also very
I read that today. I didn't realize the way that she conceived before was IVF and this was natural. So all right, the second hot topic that I had is politics. We're gonna try to keep this podcast. I know. We're going to try to keep this podcast light for you guys on a weekly basis, but we cannot deny the obvious, right? And politics is so heavy on everybody's thoughts and minds and in our faces on a daily basis. We would be remiss if we did not get a little bit into politics.
I mean, and to be fair, like I was mentioning before, we are such a culture that's, social media plays such a major role in our lives. There's a lot of interwoven situations going on there. I mean, our president is a former reality TV star, so
yes he is. Well, this is really, this being the first presidential debate that happened this week, it is a particularly heavy political time as far as discussion. And kind of the article that I am bringing up as part of our hot topic is the fact that The Rock, who has been self-proclaimed independent,
my boo from 2000. Okay. I was smelling.
Can you smell? I was about to say, can you smell what The Rock is cooking?
Way back then. Absolutely. Absolutely. And he's only gotten better looking, by the way. Because he was
absolutely. I don't think any woman would disagree with you on that. That's a beautiful bald-headed man right there. He endorsed Biden and Kamala, and my question really is just, do you think, because as we know, back in 2016, there were a lot of celebrity endorsements. Did it necessarily move the needle or really make a difference? Do you think it's going to make a difference in this particular election, given that we are less than 5 weeks away from the election? Do you think celebrity endorsements matter? Or do you think it's really just, them staking their claim and saying where they stand?
So I will say that I could not watch the debate sober. I will say that.
Ditto.
I will also say that we live in such a polarizing time that I don't believe anyone's truly undecided, right? And when it comes to celebrity endorsements, I think it helps their careers more than the politicians at this point. Because when I saw The Rock announcement, and again, because I've been following his entire career, Scorpion King and all, I knew that he did not delve into politics. I mean, he did show up at the RNC years ago. I don't know if he necessarily, quote unquote, endorsed anyone, but he was trying to get people to vote. I figured he was probably Republican and leaning, but 2020 is such a year, because I am all about positive speaking and thinking and things like that. So I'm going to be impeccable with my words. It's been such a year, and of course, he's joked about potentially becoming president himself. When he did his video during coronavirus of like, where's the leadership in this country? I just knew then, whether or not he voted for Trump or not, he was just not a fan. Like with our national response to this virus. So does it help? No. Does it help his career? I felt solidified in how I felt about him. Apparently his comments are on fire. With, Trump 2020. I'm sure a lot of that is bots too, if I'm gonna go there. I really do. But I'm sure it's not fun to read, but his comments are on fire. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I agree with you. I'm definitely at the point where I don't think celebrity endorsements and kind of them coming out one way or another make a difference, because I do agree with you. I think that people know where they stand, especially at this point in time. I don't think that there's anybody out there who is going to say, oh, I really still don't know whether I'm going to vote for Trump or Biden. I think you know. So, your favorite celebrity is not going to necessarily change your mind in any substantial way. But like you said, it will ingratiate you to them a little bit more. Somebody you may have thought, I thought maybe you were leaning the opposite way. You're on my side. Okay, great. I will support your next film. I'll go to your next concert whenever concerts are allowed again.
Because, all they got is the Goya guy in My Pillow. I mean,
and what's funny is I swear I never really paid any attention to Goya products until that blew up. Now when I go to the grocery store, I'm like, oh, that's what that is. Oh, okay. Like I didn't even know about you, sir. I didn't know about your products. So anyway, well, that was
I
just.
will say, and I stand where I stand. Like Nene said, I said what I said, but it'd be nice if there was room for me and my thoughts when it comes to like the Republican Party, but I don't agree with this current leadership. It's like his debt alone disqualifies him to be president of the United States, as far as I'm concerned. That too much of a conflict of interest. $420 million that is due in the next couple of years. That's okay. That's all I got. That's all I was
gonna say.
I don't. This year too. This came out this month too.
I don't even need to. I don't feel like I need to throw my hat in the ring of this discussion because it is.
No. I'm just putting my little.
No, I get you. I'm just saying. There's not a lie spoken from your lips. We'll leave it there. We'll leave it there. Moving on to our third hot topic. Garcelle and Jamie Foxx. So this is one that we have talked about, but we'll talk about it again for the sake of the pod. Yeah. Garcelle had Jamie on her podcast recently and talked about their chemistry on and off the screen on the Jamie Foxx show and how they had made a pact to not date while they were shooting the Jamie Foxx show. Come to the final couple of weeks of filming, all of a sudden Garcelle pop up, she engaged. Jamie's like, oh, ma'am, you couldn't wait for me for 2 more weeks to see about this thing? Garcelle responded on her podcast basically saying, listen, I think it's been great that we've just remained friends because your dick is too big for me anyway. What would I do with that thing? Okay. What are your thoughts on this story?
2 lines in that story stuck out to me. Okay. She said how it rolled out.
Yes, she did. Like an arm, baby.
And then the simple question of, what am I going to do with all that rolling? Okay. Like I could not deal. And I was just like, I appreciate people knowing their limitations. You know what I mean? Just being self-aware. Oh my God.
It's funny too because she's so honest, right? There's not a lot of people not a lot of women, let's be clear, who would be honest and say, listen, that thing is just a little bit too big for me. That's beyond my size. But I wonder if that's genuinely how she feels, or if she just said that just as like a little thing to say to be cute or be funny. Because I think she still would have tested them waters potentially if the opportunity was really there to present themselves. Even Samantha on Sex and the City had the one guy, she was like, oh, we just got to be friends. But she tried it though. She tried it. She gave it a shot. She gave it a shot.
This explains why Katie Holmes was so willing to be quiet with this relationship for so long. And now with her current boo, she is all in quarantine, being damned. She is all over in the streets with this current man. And it's like, would you be quiet? Oh, we're going to be talking about this a little bit later. Would you be quiet for a dude for whatever reason, Well,
I was going to say one thing surprised me about this story too. And this is no like shade at Jamie Foxx. He can date whoever he wants, but I didn't think Jamie Foxx dated black women. So I was a little surprised at this story in that he would have really given Garcelle the time of day. I thought he was looking at Becky probably on the PA side. I didn't think he was necessarily giving Garcelle no play. Okay?
Listen. Oh my God. I love it though. Again, I've been following Garcelle her whole career. I mean, since this Jamie Foxx show. And she was like in a movie, music video at one point too. Anyway, I just never, I have not watched her on The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, but I appreciate this personality we're getting right now. Because I guess I didn't know. Like,
yeah, how she was outside of her acting career. Yeah, it's so refreshing how everybody is these days. Like to your point that people are more open and you get to really see them for who they are versus the little personality and stuff that people put on for Hollywood. But anyway, let's move on to our if you want to go, do you want to do a fourth one or you want to go on to the recap?
We have enough. It's okay.
Okay, so our last one is going to be the is it Ma Rainey's Black Bottom is what I have listed. It's the Chadwick Boseman and Viola Davis Oscar contender film. It's Chadwick's last film that he did before his passing.
Unreal. Those pictures look so good too. Like they know what they're doing, right? They release the stills, then we're gonna get a teaser, then we're gonna get a trailer.
But, and it's obviously coming on the heels of, it's his passing is still so raw, particularly in the Black community. And every time I hear about him, it's just another kind of act of goodness or kindness that he did. The last one being him taking a pay cut for Sienna Miller on 21 Bridges. It's just like, why'd you have to take this one, God? He was a good one, Why did you have to go ahead and take him? But anyway.
But I do feel like when you hear about his character and his integrity and like he's finally one of those people that you assume is a good guy. He actually was.
Yeah.
And I mean,
which is hard in Hollywood too. Not to say that.
I mean, the Be Kind lady just got caught up this summer. Okay, like but
they say don't meet your heroes, but Chadwick, we would have loved to meet you.
Love. You've only heard but nothing but beautiful stories, and even in his death, I mean, his resiliency, like to just move forward with what he knew what his purpose was. And just the legacy of films that he left around, Chadwick forever for I mean, absolutely.
He better get that posthumous Oscar. Like
that is going. I see that makes me feel some kind of way right now. Like
I'm saying he got it for the Joker.
Here, goodness gracious. Oh, and that was the other point I was gonna say. Even in his death, unfortunately, it reinforced some things in my life in terms of getting checked up, making sure my appointments are together, knowing my family history. I what I've learned is, like, if you had someone close in your immediate family dealing with, breast or colon in particular, you subtract 10 years and start getting your, your breast checked and your colonoscopy because you want to be on it. So, I mean, unfortunately,
that's a very good point, Delora. As far as
his death, it was a wake up call, especially for our community.
Yeah, I was gonna say, very good point. Sorry to kind of cut you off a little bit, but very good point in terms of definitely bringing more to the forefront, some of these things health-wise that we don't necessarily think about. Colon cancer, I've always considered to be something you have to worry about when you get a little bit older. He was still only in his early 40s.
He was diagnosed before the recommended age.
Right, because he was late 30s when he was first diagnosed, like 39, right? 38, yes. 39. So I feel like I've seen a lot more now, heard a lot more now about colon cancer than I had previously. As we know, cancer can touch anybody at any time, but it's definitely, like you said, a good for sure wake up call in terms of our health, because again, he's somebody who you thought was probably fairly healthy, took care of himself, all of that. So what were the risk factors that he necessarily had that made it so that he had gotten colon cancer at, 38 years old? I mean, hell, we're in our 30s. That's a scary thing. The mortality, the older you get, the mortality becomes more real, but I'm still, hey, we fairly young. Well, never know. So definitely, hopefully helps other people out there. But that is,
to think of his coworkers not having a clue. Viola says she had no idea.
I mean, the directors, right? You would think even sometimes if cast didn't know, directors or producers may know, because obviously they're a part of the back end of the film.
Yes, I really thought that the director of Black Panther,
Ryan Coogler.
Yes, Ryan Coogler. I do know you, sir. Forgive me. He didn't know. I was like, what? And they were close. They made that movie together. You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, I really get the impression he didn't tell anybody but his immediate family and his girl. That's the impression that I get. So whether there were a couple friends who knew too.
Even going back to our earlier conversation with Chrissy Teigen, it's like finding the sweet spot of what to keep close to your chest and what to share. You know what I mean? Like what Chadwick did was very old school. It was very wise in his situation, because not everyone needs to know everything about people, right?
It's also personal. I mean, to your point earlier about the fact that, or that we both spoke about the fact that Chrissy is who she is. She likes to share. She's very public. Chadwick does not seem like he was that type of person, right? And he got this advice from his mother, so that's who raised him. Right. So he's gonna go in line with his values.
They're always super private anyway. I'm teasing.
Well, and of a certain generation anyway. Like my grandma used to always tell me, stay in a child's place. So, that's just in my head.
Not everybody need to know your business. But again, I mean, it was needed because he would not have been able to do all the things that he's done if that was in the forefront of all his negotiations or getting roles and things like that. So
absolutely. And have his work be the thing that we spoke about during the remainder of his life and not about his illness. So exactly. But I will say in that statement of his death, which was just such a blow and just gut wrenching. I almost wonder if his team wrote it or versus him, because I feel like his team was like, just so you know, he's been battling this for the last however many years, and he still brought you this movie, and I'm just like, yes, that is something to be proud of, because that was miraculous. He was our King T'Challa, okay?
I'm always will be forever.
Rest in peace. Well, that's it for our hot topics for this week. You want to move into our very first recap?
Yes. So this week we will be recapping Normal People, a Hulu original based on the 2018 novel by the same name by Sally Rooney. This story or this limited series is in partnership with the BBC, and it stars two young people who is essentially a coming of age story, trying to navigate school, career, and love. And I'll just start by saying when I first saw the trailer for the film, I was like, oh yes, I'm here for it, because I love a BBC moment. Okay. Like
BBC has some great shows.
Love BBC. Everything from Fleabag to The Crown. Like, I mean, The Crown isn't BBC, but you understand what I mean.
Dr. Foster. Yeah, I told you I love BBC shows as well. Such great character development.
And so this in particular was in Ireland.
Mm-hmm.
It's an Irish teen coming of age story. And then I saw that there was, human drama and romance, which is wonderful for me because I feel like our culture has been so obsessed with like supernatural superheroes and everything. So I'm like, yes, human drama. And so when I finally picked it up a couple of weeks ago, I absorbed it like it was a rainy fall weekend and I'm opening up a book. I sunk into this story so deeply. Like I binged it rather quickly. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I loved it. So what are your first impressions, Ashley?
Well, I definitely have to say that you are the probably only reason why I know about this show because, we both get into television and into content and all of that, but I had not really paid any attention to this series and you could not stop talking about it. So I was like, okay, if she's talking about it this much, it's probably
drama,
really, really,
romance,
really good. It's probably really good. Yes.
love.
So this was a 12 episode first season.
Yes.
And I
think
like
it's the only season 2, by the way.
Yes, there's no season 2 just yet. If they do one, hopefully they do. But I, like you, consumed it all at one time. So it definitely kept my attention. I think because it was based on a book, everything felt so developed. Everything felt so...
Sally herself was part of the screenwriting. It was
okay. The book writer, the writer of the book.
So that was good to know. And Ashley, we've done this in the past where we've read books and then watched the movie or shows. We didn't do that this time.
We did not.
But like I said, I thought it was well done. Like I'm like I know people who probably read this novel is not disappointed because it watched like a novel.
Yeah, or at least I hope. I hope again just from watching it seemed like everything was so well done in terms of not trying to rush anything and really letting the characters develop and show you over a period of time. I mean, it felt long, but at the same time, it felt necessary because you see them go from high school to college to what are we going to do kind of post-college, and you really follow along in a substantial portion of their lives, and it's these two young people and kind of their dynamic together.
And, Connell, sorry.
Yeah, I was about to say I kept thinking his name was something else, and then I finally saw it because I accidentally had these subtitles up. I was like, his name is Connell. So anyway, I'm sorry, you asked me first impression. So again, my first impression was that it was beautifully done for sure in terms of, to me, the way that they were able to really tell a story and give it the time it needed to develop it and for me to invest. I'm all about investing in some characters.
Especially when it comes to relationships, romantic relationships, I have to feel the build up. Okay, for me, like you can't just go, and it is a sexy moment. Okay. And
there was a lot of sex. Can you be clear? There was the only text I sent you during my watching was, I appreciate the equal opportunity nudity. Okay. Because you got to see some full frontal, ladies. And I was not mad because I just feel like in a lot of shows and a lot of series, you see a lot of female nudity and you don't see anything on men. Even, I love Insecure. I love Insecure, but you see a man's butt every now and then, but you got to see it a full enchilada on this show, and I appreciated it. So anyway.
Yes. But you know me, I'm a romance person to where it's like you don't even necessarily have to have sex for me to fall in love with like a story or like a person, that relationship or whatever. But anyway, it's an adult story. So and it was strategically placed. It wasn't even in a gross manner, which I appreciate too, where it's just like, what did they say? The money shot. It wasn't even about that. It was the chemistry between the actors was so good.
It was definitely great chemistry. And like you said, I mean, it was as if you were watching these people's lives unfold and you just put a camera in their face, Absolutely. Not that the cinematography felt reality TV-ish. I want to be clear.
No.
I'm just saying in terms of the naturalness of the storyline and the episodes, it really just felt like you were getting a glimpse into these people's real lives.
Absolutely.
Can I say my first impressions of the two main characters?
Yes, of course, because I was going to go there too. So go ahead.
So Connell, obviously, we're meeting both of them in high school. Connell is the more popular. He plays football, which I had to look up the sport they were playing, by the way, because I was like, what is this where you?
I thought it was rugby.
I was so confused. It's Gaelic football. So anyway, I had to Google that.
So rugby. I'm just joking.
I had to look that up, but my first impression of him was like, oh, okay, he's the typical kind of like high school jock, popular, whatever. And then she's the outcast who is super smart and defies authority. But I almost wondered, like, is she, and this is not to be even remotely insensitive, but for a minute, I wondered if she was on the spectrum. Yeah. I was like, is she supposed to be on the autism spectrum at all? Because it seemed like, especially when they were first getting together, that her social cues, it was like she was being like extremely honest, extremely forward. I couldn't get a gauge on it at first, right? Yeah. But I think it was just supposed to be that she was socially awkward because she had no friends, more so than anything else. Because obviously, as time goes on, you see her come out of her shell.
Yeah. Is that I'm sorry.
No, that's it. I'm good.
Yeah. So yes, we meet them in high school and she seems very particular. Like the first shot is like her meticulous ponytail down her back. You know what I mean? And you can tell that she's a studious student. With him, I'm not going to lie, I did not think he was that smart. And like later on in the story when he's in college and everything, and they're like, oh, he's so gifted. I was like, oh, I didn't pick up on any of that. Maybe the book did something for that for me. But
I think it was always supposed to be that he was hiding it for the sake of who people thought he was. Yeah. Because can I be honest? Yeah. And this is not a lack of love for the character, but I found him to be very much a coward in high school.
Yes. What do you mean? Like,
because I don't want to be too harsh, because I know, especially, when you're at that time of life, peer pressure and trying to fit in and all of that is very present.
Super important.
But he let a lot of things, in my opinion, go that were very glaringly wrong. And I felt more often than not. Yeah, I felt more often than not he really needed to stand up, particularly to his friend group. And that bothered me as far as his character goes. I
agree. I also feel like, I wonder if part of the reason why people didn't like her was because her family was wealthy, and it was more so like the haves and have-nots, and they didn't like the fact that, she's a know-it-all and she has money, so, she's not one of us type of deal.
That's interesting too, because besides the two of them, you never necessarily got the sense of where everyone else fell in terms of their socioeconomic status.
Very true. And I think that might play a role in how European schools are compared to America. America, redlining is so prevalent in everything we do, you know. Yeah. It's a little bit more blatant than other areas. That's just me making a lot of assumptions. But yeah, so I also thought it was interesting because we catch their first interaction with each other, with him picking up his mom, who is her family's housemaid, picking her up after work. And did you get the sense that they had an established interaction before they decided to be vocal on how they felt about each other?
So the only sense that I got was that they grew up going to the same schools. So they knew each other, and they obviously spoke on occasion when he came to the house to be there for his mother's pickup or what have you, but they had no real dialogue and no real relationship development until the point we get to. I feel like she probably had a crush on him throughout time, observed him in school, vice versa. And we pick up at the point where I guess she finally feels like, hey, I'm about to go ahead and shoot my shot. I don't know if they say shoot my shot in Ireland, but in America, That girl shot her shot in the hallway of the school. Okay.
She was like, I like you.
Flat out though. Flat out. That's what I'm saying. That's why I was really curious. Like, it's so
But
rare
he was
that
so
you
shocked though.
well, because he was shy. He was, even though he was popular, you know, he was a popular guy who was very reserved and was very shy and did not necessarily, even to her point of like, you know, everybody has a crush on you. Even the teacher has a crush on you. He's like, I don't know anything about that. You know what I mean? Like he was so naive and oblivious to kind of who he was and what his probably status was in that way with women. You know, as we later find out, that teacher who she said liked him. She liked
him and was like, where are you going? Like, why am I making out with my teacher right now?
Yeah, he was like, this is so weird. She was like, it's amazing. It's amazing.
So, okay. So he obviously likes her because like at the end of the first episode, after one of his games, she's on the bus and he sits right next to her. Granted, they say nothing to each other. Yes. But the idea that, you know, I think it was his way of acknowledging what she said to him.
I love those moments though. Like in real life, those are some of the most like heated moments where like you just hear that person. Fire. Y'all know y'all like each other. You start to feel that body heat. I'm getting hot just talking about it. Lord Jesus.
Oh, I loved it. And then we go on to them making out. I mean, their relationship accelerated quite quickly, you know.
It did. Sexually.
Yes.
It went quick. They never established whether he had really been, you know, how much sexual experience he had. I'm assuming he was not a virgin. Right. But she was a virgin and she's like, can we go ahead and take our clothes off now? He's like, not just yet, sweetheart. Let's
wait.
Let's make a plan.
It gave me Never Have I Ever vibes. You remember that show on Netflix and me?
Yes. Yes.
Which, honestly, even though Normal People is a drama and Never Have I Ever is a comedy, same thing. Old girl was like, I like you. Let's do it.
Yes.
When do we do it? You know what I mean?
He was a cutie. I really liked
He was cute.
Guess where he's from, girl? Orlando, freaking Florida. It's crazy. Anyway, I'm about to lose my train of thought now thinking about that.
Them getting straight to the point.
Oh, yes. I was gonna say, to me, and this is just my personal experience, ladies out there, maybe some of y'all do this. I feel like as a virgin, only in television and film are female virgins quite that aggressive. Going even back to Cruel Intentions days. I remember when Reese Witherspoon decided she was about to seduce what's his face, and she was so forward. I'm like, yes, Ryan Phillippe. I was like, girl, is that reality? I don't know. But again, only my experience. I cannot say what other women have done out there. Y'all may have been them confident virgins like, yes, let's get this. Let's do this.
Oh my gosh. So they got to know each other very well, but I think the running theme out of this whole series for me is communication and the lack thereof.
Yes, it was brutal at times too.
Brutal. So let's lack of communication. So they're out of what they call secondary school, so high school.
Oh, no. Hold on. Wait. I'm sorry. Before you go too far. Yes. I was going to say, you have to talk about kind of the dissolution and the dissolution and how all of that plays into the rest of the series. Go ahead.
And you're correct because I think this is the most, we probably should spend more time in the beginning because it's actually the groundwork for the rest of the series. So they get to know each other in a very biblical way. But every day after school, but Connell wanted to keep it a secret.
Yes, he did.
And we should also talk about their family dynamics really quick too. So Marianne is the only girl. She lives at home with her mom, who is a professional woman. Part of the reason why she's wealthy, you know, her mom has a very important job, and then she has an older
says
brother.
She's a solicitor, which in Ireland, is that a lawyer?
I'm not sure. I think so.
Okay. I need to look that up.
And her parents are divorced, but her dad is not really in the picture. And we find out that he was abusive to her mother. For Connell, he lives with his mom, single parent. They have a very, and with Marianne's family, they're very cold, very distant, very businesslike in their interactions with one another.
And her brother is verbally abusive.
Absolutely. It's a common trope too. Like, rich families are very cold, and then poor families are very warm and loving. Great communication. So with Connell, he lives with his mom, who cleans houses for a living. She's very aware of her son's activities because she knows that he brings girls home on any given day. But, just expects him to do what he needs to do as a student and a son. And so Connell really likes Marianne as well, but he doesn't want his social capital to tank in school. So he basically said, we're just going to keep this on the low. Okay.
And let's be clear, she suggested it first.
Yes,
she did suggest it first.
Okay, so I think she suggested it for his sake, obviously.
I do too. Not saying that, but I just want to be clear that it was never like he just said it and she forcefully agreed to it. She was like, we can keep this a secret if you want to.
Yeah.
And he was like, cool. So just to be 100% clear on that.
Go ahead. What you bring up? What you like to bring up at this point?
Well, I was just gonna say, to the point of, again, the agreement. You already mentioned that for him it was about social capital. For her, I was always trying to figure out what really her perspective was on it when they were doing it in high school, and unfortunately, I think it was just because she was used to or thought less of herself than she should have, which is the only reason why she really put that out there and agreed to it in the first place. She knew his status. She knew the group he hung with, whatever. So she was like, listen, I know that I am, in her mind, potentially less than. So I'm fine with, as long as I can have you and do this with you, I'm fine to keep this a secret. His mother, Connell's mother, completely disagreed with that and questioned him on that about, does she have a boyfriend or something? Why is it that you feel you need to keep this a secret?
Yeah.
But
I love his mom, by the way.
Yeah, he at the time, be it his level of maturity at the time, be it the circumstances, he didn't seem to really pick up on that. And that came to a head because of their equivalent of prom. So you go ahead and take it back, Delora.
Yes. So at this point, their love has been blossoming. Marianne put some effort into her look for this dance. Kind of like a She's All That moment where she, hair did, nails did, everything done. And she was the belle of the ball at this party. And there was a situation where, I'm sorry, I'm talking about their fundraiser before the dance.
But to your point of, she had shown him what she could do if she put in effort. Because usually Mary Ann, Lord Jesus, was kind of dressed. They wore uniform at school, but she always kind of dressed down, hair up, whatever. So to your point, she had shown him that she could kind of hang out with his crew, his little clique, because they had like a little fundraiser at a club. So cut to, then they were about to have their equivalent of like a senior dance.
And he said that he was going to ask another girl to the dance, and she was shattered. And I also want to go back to where I was with the fundraiser, because that was the first time that there was an incident where a guy groped her, and he stood up for her, and all of his friends kind of looked at him kind of crazy. But I thought there was some really, I actually was like falling for it. Like, oh my goodness, he's actually standing up for her. He's actually might claim her. And then I felt like he was so embarrassed over that fallout that when the prom came up, he was like, oh, I'm going to ask this, the popular blonde girl to to the dance. And Marianne's like, what?
Mhm.
And again, it's, you know, boys don't understand at that age. And he was like, why is she cut me? You know, she cut him off.
She
Okay.
did, which I was so proud of her for, because do
I
you know
was
how
too, and
hard
she
it
did
is?
not budge at all.
No, when he left that voicemail in tears, I was like,
Yes.
oh, that would have broke me, right? Because I cannot
Same.
stand to hear a
Same.
man cry.
I would have texted him. We're like, okay, like, let's have a conversation.
Yes, I was so proud of her, but I think to
He
her,
didn't even show up to school after that either.
She did not. But again, to his mom, the credit I give to his mother, and the reason why you said you love his mother is she really held his feet to the fire and said, listen, you treated this girl who you were sleeping with every single day like she was nothing. Like, did you ever even consider asking her to the dance? And he said no. Like, how has that never? So oblivious. Because again, in my mind at that time, you were saying that's the first time you really stood up for her. I was thinking like, oh yeah, you're about to really, you know, come into your own, stand up to your friends.
Like, I don't care what my friends think. I love this girl.
And you reverted back to being the cowardly lion that you were. And chose to go with the status quo. And for everybody listening who has not watched this yet, the culmination of it that really got me is his friends freaking knew. One of his friends tells him outside of the dance, his friend tells him, listen, we knew, and I just don't understand why you never said anything. We didn't know why you wouldn't say anything. Nobody
he was gutted after that too. Because
it's like, I did all this for what? I did all this for what?
Exactly.
Because he had even told her that he loved her. So how do you love me? But you're embarrassed of me and you don't want to ask me to this dance. Like, for guys who may be listening to this, I don't know, a lot of guys may have tuned out by now because this may not be their cup of tea. But if you are, we appreciate you. And listen here.
Welcome.
If you're sleeping with a woman and you sleep with her on a regular basis, just know she's in her feelings and don't be doing stuff like that to her because that's upsetting.
Unless she's Rihanna and she's a savage. But most of us out here in these streets.
Rihanna ain't gonna need you to ask her to no dance. She got all the dudes asking her to the dance. She just fine. So Rihanna's an exception. Yes. But yes, that the reason why I wanted to go back to that point again was just because that set such a strong foundation of where they're going to pick back up to, and the reasons why there were issues that they had to maneuver around even as they go forward in their relationship in the future. So if you want to skip ahead now to their college years.
So in the college years. So I will also say the span of the 12 episodes is 4 years. So in their relationship in high school, he wasn't really, I guess we kind of saw some of his indecisiveness in high school because he didn't know what he wanted to do. He thought he would get a job like everyone else, but he was a super talented student. So Marianne suggested that he attend Trinity with her. Trinity College.
Study English because he loved to read and to write.
That's what he loved because he was such an avid reader. So he applies, he gets in, and he's navigating. It's new. It's like, you know, that quintessential story when you peak in high school and then you have to start all over again freshman year in college. You're bottom of the totem pole. I mean, you were literally, he's renting out a room from a stranger. He has a job so he can keep things going. But he's not really, he hasn't found his people in college. So he's miserable. And one day, one of his classmates invited him to a college party. And this was his first time actually embracing college life. And guess who he finds at the party? It's Marianne. And not only is she there, she is the girlfriend of the friend of the classmate who invited him to the party.
And she is beautiful. She has come out of her shell.
So swagged. I mean, she is, you know, WOMAN woman. Okay.
Yes.
She has found herself.
Own. Yes, found her crew, which that's something I love that they pointed out. You were already mentioning it about when you're the big man on campus or whatever in high school, you may peak in high school and then you get to college, you have to figure yourself out. She was the opposite, right? So she was such an outcast that she found herself in college. And I feel like that's so true to life often.
Yes.
I
Yes,
love that they portrayed that so well in the show.
I agree. And can I say how impressed I am by the actors? Like that transition was like so well. Like even
Yes,
as
day and night.
it's like day and night. I'm like, you were just a teen like a moment ago, and now you're a full woman.
And portrayed it so well, even down to the way that they speak, right? Because you go back to the fact that both of them were more reserved and more shy and less, besides, the part where Marianne's really shooting her shot, very introverted. And you get to college and they're both much more vocal in different ways about their realities, and that is a product of growing up. That's a product of developing as a human being, as you get more comfortable with yourself, which means you get more comfortable expressing what you want and who you are.
Absolutely. So what are your thoughts on the college years? So she's in a relationship. It's also so I want to mention this too. If you ever seen One Day with Anne Hathaway, it's a film that came out in 2011. It's just like in terms of like, you follow these two people through the years, they make these connections, and you always wonder if they're going to be together. If they're not, someone's always in a relationship. So that's the feeling I got when I was like, oh great, she's in a relationship. They obviously have a thing for each other when they see each other again after, at this point, it might have been a full year because she had stopped going to school at the end of high school or secondary school. And so what were your thoughts seeing the type of man that she was with, compared to our main guy, Connell?
I thought it seemed fitting, given, again, where she was supposed to kind of have evolved to at that point, which is, Marianne's very intellectual. So she kind of surrounded herself with intellectuals and people who wanted to debate. So that was really kind of the introduction of Connell, was they wanted him to join like the debate team type of thing. So, her boyfriend at the time is this very smart guy who, is social and whatever. Is that necessarily a fit for Marianne? I don't feel like I knew yet. I just felt he can't be the one because Connell is the one, because what's the point of this story? You know what I mean? I didn't feel like there was anything particularly wrong with that boyfriend. Now, the second boyfriend we can get to, Alex. Wasn't his name Alex?
All right, the second boyfriend is
I believe his name was Alex. If it's not Alex, then I'll drink some more of my wine that I'm already sipping on. But I'm pretty sure.
Before we talk about her next boyfriend, can we talk about that reunion scene between Marianne and Connell? Like,
sure.
It was like he was thirst and horse drinking water for the first time.
As an audience member, I was too, because they went a long time into the episode without me seeing Marianne. And I'm like, what is this reality that we're living right now? How long do I have to wait for this reunion?
Yes, but I'm talking about when she decided to end her relationship with the first boyfriend.
Oh, you're talking about when they first get together again.
Get together, when they decide that, hey, we're going to give this another chance.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think that my hope, especially at that particular time, was the way that I hope with all shows where people give love a second shot, like, oh yeah, this is meant to be. Because that whole saying of if you love somebody, let it go. If they come back, that's how you know. That's the sentiment I take into my shows. So I'm like, this is gonna work out.
That is the ethos of this entire show then.
Girl, I'm telling you, I was like, this is gonna work out. He's the one. He's mature. Y'all in college now. Y'all have time to be together.
But it was the communication or the lack thereof. Because, okay, so we'll go into this part. So the first boyfriend name is it Garth?
Okay. Oh, maybe it's Gareth. And you know why I know? Because I have a coworker named Gareth.
Yes. First boyfriend, Gareth. Second boyfriend is Alan. So you were correct on that.
Hold on. Alan or Alex?
Alan.
Oh, okay. So I was almost right. I thought it was Alex. Okay.
So I feel like I was so excited when she broke up with Gareth. Because I was like, they're obviously not a fit. I think I could definitely tell, like you mentioned, She probably thought it was a good fit because he was like intellectual, extremely charismatic, but there still wasn't that it factor between them. And so when she decided to break up with him and end up with Connell again, it was so beautiful. But the reason why they broke up was because Connell was experiencing financial issues at school, and instead of
this second time
this is the second time, yes.
And is it really a breakup because yet again there was no title, yet again there was no real commitment that was made?
Touche. But what I was gonna say was, like, instead of swallowing his pride and saying, hey, can I live here for the summer, he's just like, oh no, I gotta go back home. And then she again she never expressed how she felt either, on both sides. I hate that term. I shouldn't say that. But for the two, he didn't really explain to her what his issues were. And then she just was like, well, fine, yeah, do whatever you want. And then they left it open like, oh, well, we'll see other people, right? And it's like, what? No. You can do long distance. I mean, it's only a 2-hour drive. I don't understand. I actually Googled mapped that, by the way.
That's hilarious.
They're small town to a big city.
Dublin.
2-hour drive. Okay. David and my husband and I did that for 2 years. It's possible.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, again, to your point, it definitely came down to communication. What I was going to say is that's not all he did. He definitely put it out there and said, well, you know, I guess we should see other people. It's unfortunate. But this happens in life all the time where you fear that having that level of vulnerability with somebody. Why they necessarily still felt that because they had been together previously, I don't know 100%, but it was definitely unfortunate because they both knew they loved each other. And they both knew they wanted to be together. And he should have known, because the way they portray Marianne is Marianne told him multiple times, I would do anything you want me to do. Anything,
including adding a third person.
Her roommate, her friend offered a threesome. And he said, listen, I would never do that. And she's like, if you wanted to do that, I would have done it because I would have enjoyed you enjoying it. Okay?
Exactly. And he could not compute that. He could not compute that at all. Like, she said that to him and he was just like, what? And he can be so clueless sometimes, I swear.
He's naive. He was super naive. It's adorable, but at the same time, very frustrating. Because again, it comes down to sometimes I wish, and I don't know if it could be a man thing sometimes. Is it a lack of ability really to articulate some of your thoughts that you're having in the moment that you're having them, that you only realize later, like, hey, I should have handled that differently. Not saying that we as women don't do that too, but just feels like at certain moments, like guys just bottle it all up and they take it out in other ways. And then later on are like, oh yeah, what I was really feeling at that time, I should have told you this, or I should have handled this way. And I feel like that was the same thing. He was frustrated about his situation. That's why he kind of got into a fight with her in the first place, kind of while everything was going on. And then all of a sudden you can't ask the woman who you're basically living with anyway. His roommate said, why don't you already are staying with her for the most part anyway? Why don't you just ask Marianne to live with you, if you can live with her?
Exactly. It didn't make any sense.
Or stopped having sex because they weren't necessarily in a relationship. But anyway,
that's something I want to touch upon too as well. And then so she moves on to Alan, who is a guy in her new sophisticated friend group.
He's a douchebag.
And he's a sadist. Who would have thought the short man? And no offense to short people by any means, but it kind of plays into that Napoleon complex trope. I feel like, it's like, you got to overcompensate in some other ways, and he did it in the bedroom. What did they say? What did they say he was into?
Was it bondage?
Yeah, it was like this 50 Shades of Grey. What do we call that?
Yeah, BD. Oh my goodness!
Right.
For some reason, it's like it left my mind. Like I had it. Is it BDSM? It's like it's bondage and sadomasochism, I believe. So it's like that is, I think that's it. Not God. Let's not bring God into this. People forgive me. Y'all know what we're talking about.
Yes.
But yeah, he was into, kind of punishment and pain and kind of that sort of thing. And that's what Marianne, so Marianne got into it as a result of it. But I say he's a douchebag because it wasn't just what he was doing to her in the bedroom. He was also just a dick. Like in personality, he was not a nice person.
And I mean, so is this after they got their scholarship? They went to Italy to her family's home?
Yes, I believe so. So him and his roommate were doing like a tour of Europe, and her and her boyfriend and one of her friends, the one who was about to do the threesome with them, or offered, they were all staying at her Italian villa because apparently her mother was so wealthy. They had multiple properties.
Multiple homes, and she spoke Italian fluently.
Yes, she did.
And that dinner scene was so intense where she was trying to be, the host, and Ellen was upset, I think, because she went out shopping with Connell.
Mm-hmm.
And that scene he really showed his behind. They actually broke up shortly after that event, didn't they?
I want to say that was probably, I hope that was really the time that they actually broke up, because I feel like he was just so disrespectful. Even if you're upset about kind of Connell coming there and all of that, he was disrespecting her house because he poured wine on the floor, and just the way in which he handled it, I just felt was very unfortunate. But yeah, they kind of skipped to the fact that she took a year and was living abroad. So they kind of skipped over the actual breakup, but obviously they allude to the fact that thereafter they broke up and they stopped talking to each other, and she moved on and lived in a different place. So
this is where the series got really depressing for me, because she was off abroad and you can tell she was unhappy, but like the way that she was just giving of her body to people, like her boyfriend overseas he seemed sweet, and he was like, you want me to do what to you? and it just made me feel like, who hurt you, Marianne? Like who?
Her family. For me, it always went back to her family and the way that they treated her.
And that's what I wanted to get to. I can get there now. One of the things that I found with her character in particular is like, she just wanted to be loved. She just wanted to be accepted. She wanted to belong and to be claimed. Mm-hmm. And the reason why I bring this up, because, Connell also finds a relationship with a young lady, again, at school. They seem to have good sex.
Helen, the only minority that was featured prominently in the show. Yeah.
Thank you so much for highlighting that, because yes. Well, his psychiatrist was a Black lady.
Yeah, but she wasn't a prominent cast member. So that's what I mean in terms of the prominent cast. But yes, there was one Black lady.
The thing that Black people do is we always try to find ourselves or someone adjacent to us.
Well, absolutely. And just side note, obviously, especially right now, because I make it a priority, and I'm sure you do now too, to seek out and support our community. So that's one of the reasons, especially
it's not now. It's been our whole lives. Okay?
Well, I just mean for the sake of this particular moment, for me, it's even more like my dentist is Black, my gynecologist is Black, my dermatologist is Black, like everybody Black.
I will say for now, I would say before it was just solely Black actors. Now it's, okay, this was written by a Black person. This was directed by a Black person or a woman. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like you seek out, you want to support and you want to see, you want to see us win.
Exactly. So that's my point. Not that I have not always loved Black people. I'm a Black person.
I mean,
but just that right now, it is so much more pressing.
Like when you so at your football game, it's like, okay, do they have a Black quarterback? Okay, no. Is their main coach Black? No. I'm
just looking for one. But anyway, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to derail us. I just had to point that out.
But what I wanted to say was that was such a dark time, because around that time also, what's his name again? What's his name? I'm so sorry.
Which one? The one who died?
Yes.
The one who died? I cannot remember
friend.
his friend's name who died, unfortunately. I cannot remember, but he was one of the main friends in high school that Connell grew up with. And he committed suicide. So you kind of get to see Connell's reaction.
Is it Silgo? Selgo?
That doesn't sound familiar, but
SLIGO. It's his funeral.
I don't know. Well, maybe so, but yeah, he commits suicide. So you have to kind of see Connell.
That's what it says according to Wikipedia. Yes, he kills himself, and it rocks Connell to his core. Mm-hmm. So much so that he's seeking professional help and is on medication. And again, both of our main characters are going through extremely dark times at this point. Mm-hmm. And their ray of light is reconnecting with one another through a simple video chat or phone call every night. And I just...
Which I'm sure we can all super relate to, given COVID and having to virtually chat with our loved ones more than ever. So that was a little more palpable right now for me.
And during this time also, Helen couldn't take it. She broke up with them. And I don't blame her. Like,
no. You could tell even before. To her point, she could tell before he got depressed that it was not working. So it's just unfortunate that he wasn't able to have her in that moment. But at the same time, is it right for her to spend that time with him knowing that they're not going to work out?
Make it. And I think them going to his friend's funeral and him seeing Marianne played a major role.
Girl, she had to pull that man off of Marianne. She had to physically pull him off of Marianne.
Like, that is enough, sir. Okay, our seats are over here. Where's your mama?
Those bonds, it's so real. And if you've ever really gone through tragedy or gone through anything hard, you know who those people are that you look to and you want there to support you. So in that moment when he sees Marianne, it's like, the person I love, the person that I need, the only person that I need is right here. And that's not my girlfriend. Like, I'm so sorry, but it's not you.
Yeah. Yes. And so, again, Marianne's boyfriend in Switzerland isn't even really worth bringing up. He seemed to mean well, but honestly, he was
a little scary at the end.
Yes, I was going to say he's the vessel that made me realize that she was in a very dark place.
Yeah, it got a little scary at the end. I felt like she was being physically abused. I was like, hold on now. Where are we going with this? Where are we going?
Exactly. And so go ahead, Ashley. Where would you like to go from here?
I guess we can kind of just wrap it up for the sake of for the show, because I don't know how much much more we need to delve into kind of the psychology of it beyond just really going back to the end. That for me, Marianne's character was so deeply scarred by her family and by her relationships with her family that really permeated everything else that happened for her, from her relationship with Connell to her relationship with other men to her relationship with sex to a lot of decisions we make. And that really is kind of how everything gets wrapped up, right? We see that her brother, her older brother, physically hurt her. And I don't need to really go into too much detail about that. And Connell had to be the one to kind of come take care of her, kind of get her out of that situation and let her know, like, listen, forget your family. Her mother sitting there on the couch did absolutely nothing
and it's
to
like,
stop the situation.
An abusive relationship, and you're going to let your own son hurt your daughter?
And I think that was supposed to be the psychology 2 part, right? Is that the mom, because of probably the situation with her husband and who knows what her life circumstances were potentially before that, allowed this abuse to happen and allowed this abusive pattern to continue even amongst her children. And even the excuses she was making for his behavior, talking about, Marianne, you just don't understand your brother. You just don't understand how hard it is for him. She was like, how hard it is for him? Like, what are you saying? And her mother, even at the end of the season, mother, even at the end of the season, sides with the brother after this incident and does not speak to Marianne, sees her on the street and keeps walking and does not acknowledge her own daughter. It was heartbreaking. That was the most heartbreaking part of the entire series for me, was the way that her mother treated her. Not her brother, which was awful, but that not having your parent, that first line of defense in your life that's supposed to be there for you, love you, support you, take care of you, to not have that, just to me spoke volumes about why Marianne was the way that she was. And I hope that because of her relationship with Connell, she's able to heal from those situations and able to have somebody there who truly loves, supports, and nurtures her the way that she deserves to be.
Absolutely. And to tap into where you are in the story, they're back at home. And so when she leaves home after the incident, and he's the only person that could take care of her, and he did, thank God. When they went to that Christmas party together and they finally were holding hands, meeting all their old classmates and things, that Christmas party to me was like the peak of what Marianne always wanted. Like I mentioned before,
love and acceptance.
She wanted to be loved. She wanted to belong. And to get all that for them to separate again.
Girl, that's why Ashley. I told you I was gonna be so upset. I had to I had to sleep on it. I had to wake up the next morning. I had to take my shower, and I was like, Ashley, listen, this was season 1, baby. This was season 1. Hopefully they'll do a season 2.
Series. There's no other book.
They better do a season 2. If y'all do not, I'm gonna be so
where
upset.
Can they go though? Because honestly, I can see the book ending this way. Like it's almost like we'll always be back together. I mean, we'll always find our way back together.
That's bullshit. Excuse my language. That's bullshit.
It's sometimes like that, Ashley.
No. Listen.
Honestly, okay, I will tell you this. I wanted him to go. I do want him to go.
But she needed to go too.
Yeah. But I also agreed with her not going either. But I also was like, why can't y'all have a long distance relationship? I don't understand. What is the complication in just saying, we are still together. Let's meet up every month.
Girl, where I am in my life right now, in my mental state, I only want to see happy stories. I do not, after everything that we have gone through with this couple, I do not, and I'm not really crying, people, I'm just being dramatic. I do not want to see them separate. To your point, so what happened?
This relationship, but honestly, this was the most vocal, again, back to the communication piece, they had ever been.
Yes, and I get that's beautiful, but I want to see a happy ending. So don't bullshit me and tell me this is for the best. This is
going to help him.
La La Land.
This is going to help him be the once in a generation author, and then they can she could be. What was she trying to be, a politician? I don't even remember her.
They didn't say. They said she was studying history and politics, but they never specified what she wanted to do with her career.
They'll be the power couple in Dublin, in 5 years. There's hope.
Listen. Fuck all that. They better do a season 2 and show me, okay? I need to see a happy ending. So to your point, all the material in the book is supposed to be really used up. And so we didn't really explain. So the reason why they separated the end is that he gets the opportunity to study, get his master's of fine arts in New York. And they live in Ireland. So this is a very big opportunity. He had applied for it. Yeah, didn't think he was necessarily going to get it. And at first he's like, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. Can you imagine me in New York? I'm not going to do it. And she's like, you have to do it. This is an amazing opportunity. He's like, well, I want you to come with me. No, I'm enjoying my life here. Girl, what all are you doing there? I need you to really explain to me why you cannot go to New York and have you a New York adventure.
I respect it though. She doesn't need to follow a man across the world for a while.
Okay, and I'm all about doing your thing, girl, living your best life. What I said is I need to fully understand what it is that you are doing that you feel like you cannot do in New York.
But actually, back to what we were just talking about, they were in such dark places. She finally found her light. Now, I like to think her light was,
was he not a part of that light? Right.
But it was probably getting her back from being abroad and finding her place. And I don't know. Okay, so overall, our thoughts on the film or on the series. I loved it. I was heartbroken, but I mean, it was so well done. It was beautifully made. It's so funny because the reason why I love a BBC moment or whatever is like the landscape views, the shots. It was so beautiful and green and lush and hills and oceans.
Those budgets are nice.
And it was just visually beautiful, and it was just well done, well acted. And so I'm satisfied if there isn't another season. I hear you, but I'm just saying, if I don't know where
this is your review, girl. Feel how you feel. This is your review.
I'm just saying, I don't know where they can go from here, really. Besides, they better live happily ever after his freaking New York stint.
Absolutely. Let's bring it back together. So, to your point, the show itself was great. Not that it takes a lot for me to get invested, but as invested as I truly was in this, as I said, I had to sleep on this. I had to wake up, take me a shower to kind of calm down for being upset with how they ended the show. For me to get that invested, I really enjoyed it. As far as the acting, the character development, the ability to really tell a beautiful story over a full breadth of 12 episodes, it wasn't rushed. Nothing lingered out there. There was no really fallen plot points for me. Everything got wrapped up nicely. If this is the only season, I can live with it. Am I going to be happy? No, because I want my damn happy ending. And that's all I'll say.
That's so American of you, Ashley.
Whatever. I'll be American as hell right now. If that's the case. I want my happy ending.
In these times, I
need my happy ending. But yes, I do think that that if I had to give it a grade, I'd probably give it a A-, just because they didn't have the happily ever after. If they had the happily ever after, it'd be an A+ in my book. Well, actually, I give it an A. It'd be an A+ if there's more diversity. I don't know how many Black people is in Ireland, but y'all need to find some more if y'all do a season 2. That's it.
There were women behind the scenes, so I give them that. But yeah, so for me, it's an A for me. I loved it. I love their love. I'm a sucker for romance. So all the movies or shows I recommend in the future, it's not all of them, but you best believe I look for my romance. So that was this week's recap. So we're going to move into our hidden gems.
Yes. Do you want to start or you want me to start?
I can start. I can do this one. So
right,
my hidden gem. So just to give you an understanding of what hidden gems are, basically these are movies, shows, podcasts, and music that we enjoy that we're not necessarily going to recap in the future, but we would love for you all to have some takeaways from each episode. So my hidden gem is Leslie Odom Jr.'s album Mr. Leslie Odom Jr., most known as Aaron Burr from Hamilton, who is everything in that musical, by the way. Welcome to everyone who just found out about Hamilton this year, but I've been on the bandwagon since 2016. Okay.
You have.
And he has made that album everything for me. Anyway, Mr. is his I believe it's his third studio album, but like he had his first album, then a Christmas album, and now it's Mr. I want to highlight a couple of songs. My favorite tracks on this album are Standards, Go Crazy, which is the single off of this album, and You Are My Everything. Such a beautiful song. And then I also like to mention Remember Black. Beautiful, beautiful song. So that's my hidden gems.
Okay. Well, I have 5, but I will not go into
5.
I know. I will not go into too much depth about all of them because running short on time.
You have other weeks, just so you know.
I know. But this week in particular, I consumed quite a bit. So I just want to give a shout out to just a few things that I really, really, really enjoyed. The first one being Sneakerheads on Netflix. It is 6 quick quick consumable episodes. Really enjoyed it. The Star, you've seen him in other things like Blackish and what's the one Tracy Morgan show that was airing on TNT? I can't think of the name right now.
The OG.
Yeah, the last OG. Yeah,
or
so
last
he was.
OG.
Yeah, he was his cousin in that. So he is the star of this one. He's kind of a reformed sneaker enthusiast, and kind of gets roped back into doing a scavenger hunt kind of thing for the supposed mythical Jordan Zero. So all the sneaker lovers out there, you will really love this series. It was funny. It was very entertaining. And like I said, very quick binge on Netflix.
Probably love that.
I loved it.
But I am not a sneakerhead.
Oh, I loved it. I even texted one of my coworkers like, listen, tell your husband to watch this show. My next one is All In, The Fight for Democracy. I really enjoyed that on Amazon. Yes. Stacey Abrams is featured pretty heavily on that. It's really focused on the history and tactics of voter suppression throughout the years in the history of America, which obviously is very relevant right now and very timely in terms of this upcoming election. So I really encourage everybody to check that out if you have Amazon Prime and really get, more detail, because every time I think I know quite a bit about history, I'm reminded there's so much that I still don't know, and there's so much to still understand about the ways in which society has oppressed us and has oppressed our rights and our ability to just function in society. So heavily, strongly encourage it. Black folk in particular. They also touch on other minority groups too, but particular, as Black people.
The Native people.
Yeah, I mean, they talk about Chinese and how there was a effort in California in particular to stop Chinese people from voting. I mean, as we know, most minority groups, when they come into the U.S., have been oppressed in one way or another. But again, especially at this time in particular, I think it's very important to watch it and to get a better understanding of historically what has happened. So that one I really enjoyed. The Social Dilemma on Netflix. Woo! That one was...
It's on my list. I don't know if I'm emotionally ready for that.
I think you are. I don't know how much I feel like that documentary is necessarily going to change people's habits so much as it's just going to remind you that the way that you are behaving with technology is all intentional. You know what I mean? Like there's not a whole lot necessarily we can always do to fight against the system because we're so ingrained at this point, but it's a reminder to be mindful and to, realize
kind of like the voter thing.
Absolutely.
It's very intentional.
And you have people in Silicon Valley in particular who are speaking on this documentary who were the heads of these companies, of the Googles, so it's first person accounts of, hey, we created this monster and we're really trying to figure out now ways to tackle the efficacy of it and the ethics behind it, because it's not healthy for people and it's not healthy for society. So I really enjoyed The Social Dilemma. I did turn my phone off for a good hour after I watched it and then turned that bad boy right back on. But listen, I'm doing so much better being mindful about my social media consumption. So I take that as a win where I can. But anyway, Social Dilemma, Netflix. The second to last one I have is Enola Holmes on Netflix. I watched that. Enola Holmes, starring Millie Bobby Brown. So this is her, Enola Holmes. So this is her.
All my faves.
This is her starring. Yes. The one who played the heartthrob in Hunger Games. You also have Superman. Yeah, you have Henry Cavill, who is playing Sherlock Holmes. So the premise of the movie is that she is Sherlock's younger sister, and her mother is played by the fabulous Helena Bonham Carter.
You don't think we're gonna recap this?
I don't know. Do you want to recap Enola Holmes at some point? Okay. Well, then that's not a hidden gem. We're going to recap that at some point in the future, people. The last one I have is a song choice. So it kind of goes full circle back to John Legend. I really am loving his song with Jhené Aiko on his latest album called You Move, I Move. The name of the album was Bigger Love. It dropped back in June, and it's been kind of on repeat for me. I always have like a song that I seem to fall in love with that I play forever, and this is the latest one for me. It was beautiful. So good job, John Legend.
Yay.
And those are my hidden gems.
Girl, thank you.
You're welcome. Sorry, I told you I had a list today.
I mean,
told you I had a little bit of a list today. It's one of those good weeks where I was able to really, really go through some stuff. I was feeling some type of way. So that's all I have. Do you want to tell them what we're going to recap next week?
I'm okay if we wait, if that's okay.
All right. So we're going to leave it as a tease for what our next recap is going to be.
I can't wait, but we did it, Ashley.
We did it. First show down.
Show in the books.
Yes, I'm super excited for this podcast. Again, it's been a long time in the works between you and I to really get this up and going. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed our thoroughness with our show discussion. It just gives you a little glimpse into our hours-long chats we sometimes have. And, give us any thoughts you guys have, any suggestions, any feedback, any tips or things you want us to recap that you're really into right now. We would love to get some suggestions, and we'll keep the conversation going.
Yes. Until next week.
All right. Bye, guys.